back in 2001 titled 50-50. It's our Money Matters feature, and we're taking a look at this idea of a 50-50 relationship. It's always sparked countless debates, starting in the early 2000s, as you can hear from the Mendoza song. Some see it as a gold standard of equality, where both partners contribute equally, whether it's financially, emotionally, or in household responsibilities. And others argue that love and life aren't always that neatly divided. But what does 50-50 really look like in practice, and can it actually work? We're going into that conversation in today's Money Matters feature, where we speak all things personal finance. If you were to be in a 50-50 relationship, how would you make that practical and intentional within your relationship? We have business science and performance specialist Dr. Mavis Mazhura joining us on the line to unpack this one. Would you go 50-50, Dr. Mazhura?
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Good morning.
I think the concept is not. It applies in different contexts differently, so it varies. So I think maybe we need to unpack that.
Yeah, I can see the
50-50 doesn't.
Yeah,
mean,
Doctor, I think Palisa caught you by surprise there.
Yeah, she did.
You know, the concept and idea of a 50-50 relationship has sparked so much debate for a very long time, especially in the beginning, where women started to be more financially independent. Around the early 2000s, we started hearing song and, popular culture speaking a lot about this 50-50 concept, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I think also, people then started to contextualize it for what works for them. So 50-50 might mean we take all the expenses and we split them in half, and everybody pays their half, their 50%. But it might also mean we look at the shared responsibilities that we have and we divide those responsibilities. It might also mean we agree on a percentage, an amount that you will contribute from your own salary. So if we say you're contributing 80% from your salary, I'm contributing 80%. So I think it differs in application. It doesn't always mean an equal split of the actual rands and cents or the amount.
And that's where many people are getting the conversation of 50-50 wrong, right? Because it seems like what they're saying is that we are putting a percentage down to all our financial needs and responsibilities. And if the percentage is going to be 50-50, that means that we have to pay everything equally. But there's so many other things that are happening in relationships that might really make that concept much more complicated. And now that we're being more intentional and speaking a little bit more through social media about the concepts of relationship, we now know about the emotional weight of relationships, the psychological weight of relationships, the household weight of relationships, including the financial weight of relationships. And not all of that can be split in half, can it?
No, so not all of that can be split in half. So I think it's also having that conversation to say, what are the non-financial contributions and how do those actually get factored in the sharing, in the split?
Yeah. You see, when ladies start saying, what are the non-financial contributions? You know you are in trouble. But you know what, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it works more on formalized, maybe family set up, or maybe a formal relationship that we can go 50-50, right? But I think you say something very powerful, because not everyone can contribute the same as the other partner financially. At times the other person can actually contribute more when it comes to other areas in the household or in the relationship dynamic.
That's true. So there's a lot of non-paid work that we don't normally consider when we're talking about, the financial contribution. Who's making sure that the kids have done homework, who's doing school run, who is cleaning the house, who's cooking, there are a lot of other things that need to be considered that don't always have a rand value, that don't always, are not, given that financial value.
At the base of a conversation like this is the conversation itself. It seems like a lot of couples avoid having conversations about money, which then brings in the issues that they finally have. Because no matter how they're splitting the financial responsibilities, others, end up having grudges in the relationship, end up, not feeling like they're needed or they wanted in the relationship because the communication is not actually taking place. So maybe let's start there. Communications about money and responsibility in the relationship setting.
So I think that actually needs to start when people are dating, but we're not trained for that, right? We're not even trained for that. We don't even want to get into a marriage and start, having a surprise about how someone's financial values are now impacting the way you're spending, how someone's money story, where they come from. How they've been raised and socialized around money is now affecting you, or the way money is organized in the house. So I think that money is still a taboo subject. We don't talk about it enough, and we need to start having that conversation. Even when people are dating, even when with our children, we need to start having that conversation to be more transparent around finances. What is happening around finances? What's driving our finances? What are our financial values? What are the financial beliefs? So those are the things that we don't really talk about, because also then you look at it, when we then split these, the financial responsibilities, we normally go via gendered, with the way we've been socialized in terms of what do women do, what do men do. So you end up having a woman who's paying school fees, she's paying for groceries, she's paying for the helper, and the man of the house is paying the bond, is paying the car, but he's paying for real assets, right? And now we can also even go back and say, depending on how you're married, are you married in community of property, out of community of property with accrual, out of community of property without accrual? What does that mean in case that you want to now separate? So the financial contribution, long term, long run, what does it mean if you have split your financial responsibilities the way you've done it? So I think conversation needs to be really, really had, and that's something that we need to get better at.
Let's talk about those gender roles. How essential are they? Because we are in the continent, and patriarchy at times seems to overwhelm these kind of conversations.
That's true, and that's something that we need to outgrow. We need to adapt to the changing world, right? Before, our mothers were not working, our fathers were working, they were financially responsible. They were taking responsibility of finances, but now we're saying things have changed. Our women are also working, but you find often that, we still are wired in that, women buy groceries, women pay school fees. Non-tangible things. But in the end, women live longer than their male counterparts, about 5 to 7 years. So women need to plan even more and better financially, right? So that they can have enough to live, for the rest of their lives. But if we are not having those conversations, and we're saying women are underinvested, that's one thing for sure. Women are not investing their money. So very few women are investing their money. Their money is just finishing in daily household expenses. There's no long-term goals. There's no long-term financial planning. So if your partner doesn't actually do it for you, you find that sometimes you actually end up in financial problems or trouble when your partner is no longer there.
All right, we need to take a break, Dr. Mazhura. Stay with us on the line. I want us to come and see if we can create a financially balanced way to take care of our finances in the relationship without making it a transactional scorecard, which can bring in other emotional issues within that relationship dynamic. Stay with us. We're speaking about going 50-50. Is it practical? And if so, how do we do it?
This Mandela Month, Channel Africa invites you to walk in the footsteps of a giant. From the prison yard of Robben Island to the halls of the United Nations, Nelson Mandela's legacy reminds us that service, compassion, and justice are the building blocks of real freedom.
En cette journée Mandela, que nos actions fassent écho à son héritage.
Alionyesha dunia ya kwamba sauti moja yaweza kuhamasisha mataifa.
Mandela ensinou-nos que a liberdade não é dada, mas sim conquistada através da coragem e sacrifício.
Join us as we reflect, remember, and reignite the spirit of Madiba across the continent. This is more than a day. It's a call to action. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Benjamin Mushatama and Palisatawo on the move.
21 minutes past 11 o'clock Central African time. Our Money Matters feature. We're speaking about money from a personal perspective here. Our guest is Dr. Mavis Mazhura, a business science and performance specialist who's helping us speaking about what does the 50-50 relationship actually look like. And we've touched on so many points that actually are very, very interesting on this one. Palisa was asking that question around the transactional scorecard, and at times in relationships, we determine them by how much you contributing, how much I should be contributing. My generation of the millennials are very much scorecard keepers, especially the ladies. They'll tell you that you must, as a man, contribute more. I must have something in my account at the end of the month because you are in my life. At times that stuff happens. You're like, no, how? So I must be emptied out by you and you must have money in your account. How fair is that? But, you know, if you really love someone, the transactional scorecard becomes very much non-valid, right? And keeping up score is probably not healthy in a relationship.
Right. So I think let's look at the fact that socialization always comes in. So we need to almost upgrade our operating model. When women are saying you need to make sure that I'm taken care of, where's that coming from? It's something that we've been trained for ever, right? To say a man takes care of a woman. So we need to revisit that social wiring and recondition and wire ourselves for our current circumstances, right? That's one. And also now when we look at the fact that, you know, we can reduce our financial responsibilities to transactions. I think this is where communication is very important, and getting to know each other is also very, very important. What are our shared goals? What are our dreams, right? And then be able to support each other to meet goals, be able to support each other to achieve the desired dreams so that everybody's feeling satisfied and fulfilled. Because if you're in a relationship where you just feel you're just a financial, like almost like an ATM, you're just there to contribute money and you're not seeing your growth, you're not seeing your future, obviously you're going to start to build resentment. So I think money is not an end in itself. It's a means. So we need to look at what do we need to achieve, what we need to accomplish, what do you need to accomplish, what responsibilities do you have? And so when you look at the 50-50 split, when you look at it from, you know, we are splitting in half. Responsibilities are different. You might be the firstborn and you've got a whole lot of people that you still need to look after, or your parents don't have pension. So there are a lot of dynamics to consider. And this is why couples need to have a conversation around money, but also be sensitive to the emotional needs of the other person. Allow the other person to grow, support them to grow, let them feel like they have a partner. We're in a partnership rather than we're in a transactional relationship.
That's an interesting one because, you know, life happens and one of the key income earners can actually have a devastating thing that happens in their life, whether it's either they lose their job, maybe they become disabled, and then the dynamics change completely. So what if life happens? How do you actually adjust to that?
And I think that is why day-to-day is important. How are we working together? How are we planning for the future? Do we have emergencies? Right. So our financial literacy as a couple becomes very important. We need to be continually building our financial literacy so that we have a plan for debt repair. We have a plan for earning income should one of us not be able to earn income. What are the other sources of income that we're going to have? We have a plan. We're operating within a budget that we are, you know, in agreement with. We're managing our day-to-day finances using principles that really work. We're investing for the future. What are we doing to invest for the future? We're also protecting what we're building. Do we have a will that's there? Do we have the health insurance? Do we have a legacy plan? So those things need to be in place. So financial literacy as a couple, not just individually. So couples need to be building their literacy together so that they can be building their dreams and their goals together.
For those couples who are trying to be more intentional about speaking about their finances and splitting their finances accordingly, what are some of the common pitfalls that they face when trying to implement what they've spoken about?
I think values, right? So values, we don't always have the same values. So we want to be able to align those values. So no values is better than the other. But we sometimes think, oh, your value is better, my value is better than yours. So let's go with my value. So I think it's a continuous alignment of values. But also money stories. Where do you come from? So we need to confront our money stories. I remember someone was sharing that, the guy is a CEO, he has done well, but he's still a penny pincher. He would not buy McDonald's for his kids. But the wife is like, but it's just McDonald's and we've got the money and we can afford it. So our financial stories, like the way you were socialized around money, will always come in and it can create conflicts. So I think it's confronting and appreciating, but it's also updating that operating model. Be willing to update the operating model to say, you know what, I'm here now. Things have happened to me. I might have grown up with less, or I may have grown up with lots. So if you grew up from a place where you were buying from opulence, you might also not be financially prudent because things were there for you. So it's really working on how do we upgrade our own operating model. And these pitfalls are there, different values, different beliefs, different financial stories, earning ability, right? Someone is working, someone is not working. Mm-hmm. All those things are things that we need to navigate in that present challenges in managing money as couples.
I know we're speaking about spending. Yeah. Do we introduce the budget here when it comes to the 50-50 conversation?
Sorry, how do you introduce the budget?
Yes.
So obviously you've got shared responsibilities, right? So that's where you start, right? What are the shared responsibilities and how do we share those? So whatever model of 50-50 you end up coming up with, whether it is a percentage of an income, whether it is you pay school fees, I pay this, or whether it is the actual split of the actual amount, depending on obviously the context. Then each person needs to obviously have their money to spend, right? So if I want to buy shoes, I should now not feel like I'm stealing, or I should now not be. There must be. I know that when you're dealing with organizations, they'll say you can spend. Or I sit on quite a few. What is it? Board corporates where they say you can spend 10,000 without asking, right? So I don't want to be calling you every time I want to buy a shoe of 500 rand. And please, can I buy a shoe 500 rand? What is allowed? What is allowable to say? Oh, you can spend 5,000 without asking me. But beyond that, we need to have a conversation. So those are some of the things that couples need to actually have in place so that there's accountability. So accountability remains very important in the relationship.
Just your final tip of maybe something that we haven't touched on, Dr. Mazhura?
I think it's something we've touched on. We underestimate financial literacy. Mm-hmm. Most of us think we know about finances, but we've never actually built a mindset of how we manage our finances and later on align it with your own partner. Mm-hmm. So people don't take financial, and even if you have a financial literacy course, for example, people don't show up because I'm like, I'm earning this money. I know what I'm doing. I'm an adult. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But researchers are showing, like Standard Bank is showing, people that are earning 700 to 1 million rand, most of them don't have an emergency fund.
Wow. Okay, Dr. Mavis, we have to leave it there. Thank you for giving us your time. Where can we get hold of you just quickly?
So I am on Facebook, Dr. Mavis Mazhura. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Mavis Mazhura. So you can connect with me on the socials.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Always giving us very important, sober advice. Thank you for your time. That's Dr. Mavis Mazhura, business science and performance specialist. This takes us to 11:30 Central African time. Let's wrap up our morning sports.